I get completely castrated all the time. I'm gonna use that word. I don't know why, but everybody shames me for not reading Watchmen. They're like, "Hey, you're like a really big comic book fan. How have you not read this?" I'm just like, I don't know. I just haven't.
There was a time
I would love to get castrated sometime.
Why did I say that?
That's the quote of the night.
Why did I say that?
I'm just saying.
Resistance is fabulous. This is the Gals of Geekdom.
Mortal Kombat! Sorry, I like.
Okay, that's where we're starting the show. That is beautiful.
Oh, okay. I just saw the shirt and I was like, yo, it's one of my favorite stick fighter games, you know?
That's awesome. Okay, so this is it. This is either the second or the third podcast, depending on how you count it, of Gals of Geekdom. My name is Eva. I'm here with Erin.
Hey.
Chrystal.
Hello, everybody.
Jon and Ren.
Hello. How are you doing?
And this is going to be an exciting show. We were just hanging out earlier. We were talking about the '90s and this weird inclination. Did any of you all see that weird post by Rob Liefeld about the X-Men, about how people who are working on X-Men now need to get like a primer, you know, on like the X-Men cartoon and the comic books from the 1990s?
Yeah,
really
I saw
shook
that.
my head on that.
Okay.
I commented a little bit on it. Honestly, I never got into the '90s X-Men show. Like, I tried watching a couple episodes and it wasn't for me. Like, I don't know why. I like. I think it was like, you know, comparison to the DCAU or like even to like a relatively comparable show in Spider-Man. Like, I didn't really like it.
I think there's a certain nostalgia if you grew up with it, but certainly there have been better produced and more suitable to modern tastes X-Men cartoons since. I mean, I liked it. It was my first X-Men, really, but yeah, it's weird looking back on it now.
Yeah, I had like this memory of the X-Men, I think, being the most exciting, exceptional cartoon I had watched, like as far as serious cartoons go. And I went back and I watched the whole thing again, you know, thinking, oh wow, it's going to be great. And then again, it was like the memory of the experience of watching it as a kid when I had no standards versus what it actually is. And even as far as X-Men, today, just watching it again really fell short for me.
Who said, you said Rob Liefeld said this?
Yes, he did. Your favorite artist.
My favorite artist. Everybody knows me. I'm the #1 Rob Liefeld fangirl. I have damn near all of his books because I feel bad for the guy, so I buy all of his books. I mean, he's the only artist I know that, you know, his signature on a book makes it go down in value.
Well, not only that, but he did invent the belt patch.
But here's the thing with him.
That's a part.
That whole era from like 1990 or 1989, whenever he got on New Mutants, I don't remember, it's issue 85. That whole era from there to when they founded Image, he just loves that era. It's all he talks about. Anything from that era is just gold to him. He just wants to be like 20 years old again. That's Robin, like a nutshell.
He had this huge following back then, right? Like, his style was definitely very different than Marvel House style. And I think that might have been one of the things that was exciting about it is because, and when he's careful with his proportions, there's a lot of dynamism to his art. But he does seem to be kind of like, you know, grasping after those glory days.
Yeah, he can't let go his prime. I mean, he's an older guy now, and he's just constantly sharing pictures of him and Todd McFarlane from like 1992.
Yeah, that says a lot.
It's like I see Rob Liefeld, I see like other people who have done, like right now I'm rereading do you know a book called Copra?
Not a clue.
No, not familiar.
It's like a book about like it's a riff on the Suicide Squad, but it's like a lot more looser and more dynamic than like, because it's an independent book. That book takes a lot of its cues from like Liefeld's like the X-Force and Youngblood, but it's but it feels a lot more raw. It feels a lot more extreme because it doesn't have the tight pencils that were in like mainstream comics at that time. And I see stuff like that, and it's stuff. It sort of pales in comparison.
So the definition of Coco, I mean, sorry, not Coco, Copra. You said Copra, right?
Yeah, Copra.
Yeah, the Copra. I tried to Google it and I can't find anything, but I know that the Copra is a kernel of the coconut. So now I'm interested in what this comic actually is.
It's basically like the Suicide Squad from the late '80s, but it's done in like an indie style.
Oh.
I'm sorry, did you say the publisher?
It was published. The guy who made its name is Michel Fife.
Well, that
Oh,
guy-
Michelle Fife, yeah.
Fife.
Okay.
Yeah, Fife.
Okay.
Not Pfeiffer.
But yeah, I'm really not good with names. Like,
Um,
I'm just kidding. I'm just,
some of these character designs, like that first issue, I'm looking at the cover right now, and that's like a complete rip of like early Deadshot.
yeah. It's sort of his love letter to like that era of the Suicide Squad. So
Yeah. I'm a big fan of John Ostrander's like original run of Suicide Squad. It's one of the only runs that I own like physically from like complete to end, and like all the annuals and tie-ins. Like I own that entire run. So wow, I might actually look into this. This is really cool.
yeah.
It's also in Comixology Unlimited, apparently, which means if you've got Unlimited, you could just go in and read it.
Well, how?
It's really exciting.
What
That's
kind of
cool.
comic fan doesn't have Unlimited?
I know, right? Unlimited
Michelle,
is like essential fangirling.
I might not have it unlimited, but I do buy a lot from Comixology. Michelle Fife did a continuation of the old Image Bloodstrike series.
Yeah, I actually have that. I actually read that up like a couple months ago.
Did you enjoy it?
It was good. I didn't really know anything about those characters. I saw like a review of that book like some years ago, but I don't really remember it. It was good. I sort of liked the art style and everything.
Yeah, I know. I've seen a couple issues of Bloodstrike in the dollar bin over the past couple years.
It was one of the higher points of the Extreme Studios stuff.
You get
But all
a
the
lot of,
Extreme Studios stuff sort of occupies its own little part of comics quality. It is one of the higher points of that.
you get a lot of those early Image titles in the dollar bins for some reason, and I think it's not because of the value or like the stories. I think it's because there were so many of them at like printed. Like that was the thing.
Yeah, millions
Yes,
and
that
millions.
was the thing back then. It was a speculation market, right?
Right?
And they printed so many copies and variants of these early Image like series. So there's so many of them out there, and I see a lot of them in the dollar bins.
And it's actually some pretty good reading, I haven't read Bloodstrike in particular, but one that is surprisingly underrated. And back to your topic of your favorite artist there, Youngbloods was, if you turn your mind off and just scroll through the pages and enjoy it for what it is, it's actually a pretty fun series.
I have fun with Youngblood.
I really enjoyed it. That's one I reread recently.
I mean, if you want fun action without a lot of character depth or background, it is definitely fun stuff. I've been reading through a lot of that stuff for the podcast I do, and like Savage Dragon takes that same level of like high action fun, but then it also brings in character depth and mystery and backstory and storytelling. So it's one of the ones I prefer more. But I do like the stuff they have. That
Savage Dragon also has a fair amount of social commentary in it, whereas Youngbloods didn't necessarily.
did not.
Because of who was writing it. There's never too much depth in anything that Rob writes. There's never too much depth. like it's all on the surface.
I think that's why, other people that's why like he creates things that are good because other people did it. Like, you have Deadpool, and like his first appearance, he was just a guy who could heal very fast. And then like other people came in and actually gave him like a sense of humor, like the breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, I think Fabian Nicieza was one of the first people to write him besides Rob Liefeld.
He's the co-creator.
Yeah, I have seen that, haven't I? I was trying to think of
Yes,
what he
him
did because
Him and Rob created Deadpool together. They never say that because Rob always says that he created Deadpool. He never says he's the co-creator. He always takes 100% credit for Deadpool.
so now I'm wondering, just in my own brain, like, I guess they co-created him outside of the comic, like, together, because Nicieza wasn't writing New Mutants 98, and he didn't start writing X-Force until after, like, the first year. So I guess they co-created him, and then Rob Liefeld used him.
You know, I'm gonna actually look into that because I don't know exactly how Deadpool was created, but I know that it was Fabian and it was Rob, and I know that Rob takes the credit.
Just yesterday, I was reading about. I was trying to find stuff about Supreme, which was another Rob Liefeld creation.
Oh, Chicken Supreme!
I've read the first dozen or so issues of that. I know the Alan Moore run from like 41 or whatever is the part that gets all the rage, but I have to do things in order or my brain will like explode. So I start at the beginning and stuff.
So what did you think of them, the Supreme books?
Okay, so it starts out as like a Superman take, but it doesn't really do a whole lot with that. It's like, what if Superman had left Earth after World War II and stayed away for 50 years and came back and was also an asshole?
Sounds like the ultimate Captain America.
Ultimate Captain America
Yeah.
is such a jerk, right?
Yeah.
But they don't really run with the Superman pastiche side of things. They just kind of have this big, overpowered guy who also doesn't really give two shits about what you have to say or in his way. He's going to do whatever he wants to. But it's that same kind of popcorn action reading. I like it enough, but I'm not in love with it.
I only read like some of the Alan Moore stuff, and he really gets into like, you know, he has like the Supremium, he has like a Supreme Dog. His arch nemesis is called Darius Drax or something like that.
Every time I'm flipping through, like I well, not recently for obvious reasons, but I go to comic shops and I usually dig through the dollar bins, and every time I see a Supreme title, I just cannot stop myself from saying like Chicken Supreme or like, you know what I mean? Like I just can't. Like every time I see Supreme, like that's just, my mind goes to some kind of food, and I've never picked up an issue of it because of
Taco
that.
Supreme.
Man, this is the Taco Bell.
I have issue 1 of Supreme. I do, but that's the only issue I have.
Yes, and in the end of the series, it turns out that his main power is that he's covered in sour cream and guacamole.
That's what's going on in my head.
That's why he's always in a bad mood.
Yeah, that would totally explain it.
He's the true condiment king.
Oh, there's a good villain for you. One of my favorites.
One of the best.
So, Chrystal, we haven't heard from you. What are you reading lately?
I've been taking advantage of because I still had it. I was actually surprised the Comixology. I mentioned this in the other podcast, but the Comixology is doing the Black Panther, like everything issue for like free or something. So
Yeah.
I started reading a little bit of the 2016 run of Black Panther. I didn't get too far into the first issue, but because I've been busy, but that's my main thing I've been reading recently.
Is that
It was pretty good so far.
is the first run of Black Panther?
Nice.
Is that the Kirby?
No,
Kirby,
I
pencils?
Yes, it is.
I did buy that one, but I mean I bought the 2016 run.
The
I got
Issue
you.
Coats one.
Yes. Yeah, that's the last thing I've been really out of this entire podcast. I'm probably the person who least pays attention to comics, just as a sort of, I guess, warning or preamble.
It's okay. I got the Sandman audio drama this week on Audible, and I matched it up with the comic, and I was really surprised at first how really close the adaptation was, and second, it's got a couple of like minor problematic things in it. They do things like Desire is a non-binary character, and they like it's one of the Endless, which is sort of like the gods of the series, and the character's rapey as hell. One of the major plot points is that, this non-binary immortal just went and raped a character and was trying to cause all kinds of chaos in the ethereal plane of the Endless, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. But beyond that, I was really impressed as far as just how well it came up, or how well it held up. They had this one point where there was like a serial killer convention.
I remember
Way
One of the
Neil
most
Gaiman writes
memorable
it.
parts of the series.
Yeah.
It was great. And so it's basically a comic book convention for serial killers, just the way it's structured. They had panels and everything.
And like
It was so much fun.
the straights in the story think that it's like cereal grain convention, like wheat
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
it's a serial convention. I guess somebody couldn't spell, It was great. I can't wait until the Netflix series. I really want to see what they're gonna do with it.
I'm really looking forward to that too. I really enjoyed that audio drama. I took it in slowly. I did like a chapter a day or so and just let it happen. And because I love Sandman. My brother got me into Sandman back when it was still going on, and yeah, it's one of my faves.
It was great. What I did was I took the audio drama and I matched it up with the comic book, which I already had in my comicsology, and I was going through page by page, panel by panel. And there's a couple of spots where they got creative with the numbering, like the side stories. They moved those around quite a bit, but once you figure out where everything goes, you could follow it frame by frame, page by page. It was so much fun. And I just remembered why I love Neil Gaiman so much as a writer. He is just, he is very, very charming, I think. I think that's the word for it. Everything Neil Gaiman does is just super charming, He would be the kind of, I imagine him as the kind of person, who you'd meet him in person and you just couldn't stop talking to him.
We're looking at his giant curly hair.
My hair's weird. But, then again, I have the same kind of crazy curly hair, so I'm not worried about that.
Chrystal, I was going to mention
Hi.
one of the best loved Black Panther bits, because you were asking about this on the previous episode. The Jungle action run from the 70s. If you want older Black Panther that's also well loved and well regarded, that's what you should go to.
Yeah, I love that story. It's like Don McGregor wrote it. Gene Colan does like this incredible art for it. Like it's amazing.
Is that the one from the late 70s, or is this the one like? Okay,
Late 70s, early 80s. It's in like
I'm looking at a cover date July 74 for Black Jungle Action number 10. So it's around it's in the 70s.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I was honestly just trying to get as much possible for free because it's like, it's crazy when I was just putting individual issues in the Comixology basket, and then it literally like at the end the total was like $400, and I got it all for $0. So it was just like, how? I'm sure it was a tribute to Chadwick.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's nice at least. So I don't think I'll run out of comics to read.
Yeah, well, there are always more
if you
comics.
Want another run, Reginald Hudlin did a pretty good run on Black Panther. It was like the arc where he and Storm marry. I know that decision has been controversial, but that run was pretty good.
I'm currently looking at my Comixology app just to see exactly what I got because I just put like as much as I could into like the cart and then bought it.
I have a really, really nerdy brag. I don't know if I can make a really nerdy brag. Is that okay?
Brag away.
Go for it.
Okay. Talking about this on Twitter. So I'm 41 years old.
Okay.
And Superman is 82 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I am approximately one half the age of Superman. About 10 years ago, I started a Superman read-through. I started Action Comics #1 and started reading all of it. And when I was getting close to the halfway mark, and I was getting close to my birthday, where I would be the same age as Superman, I decided to calculate the exact day when I would be half as old as Superman, and I decided that would be my goal. So in July, I hit the first halfway mark of Superman. I've read everything before that halfway mark, so like his entire first 40 plus years, right at the time that I was half his age. So,
nice.
Lots and lots and
Really cool.
lots and lots and lots of Superman.
That is a great brag. That's
That
really
is,
fun.
that is a great bag.
Yeah, so like everything from like the Action Comics #1.
Action, Superman, Adventures, Superboy, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, World's Finest, Justice League, DC Comics Presents, Superman Family. Yeah.
Okay, so you've read all of this Superman content. What is there a single story that stands out in your mind as the best Superman story of all time?
Okay. So far, the thing I feel like hasn't been topped yet for just sheer like pushing the buttons I like to get pushed, like continuity and bringing stuff back. Like the couple or so years building to the death, like starting with Exile when he goes into space, because that introduces the Eradicator, and then like they keep bringing that concept back as the Krypton Man and everything else. And then when you get to the death, you have all of these years of continuity. It's not just a big story for Superman. It's a big story for like the Superman story they had been telling for the last several years. Mm-hmm. And that bit of stretch of stories is like my favorite thing they've done.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Pretty cool.
There are other bits. Supergirl had some really great stuff in the 60s. There's a story, because if y'all know Supergirl, when she first came about, Superman wanted to keep her as his like secret weapon. You're young, go live in an orphanage, be sad, and I'll let you be famous some other time. And so the time came whenever he was ready to announce her presence to the world. I have this cousin Supergirl, and she loses her powers on the same day. And this begins a 9-issue story arc where she's trying to figure out about her powers. She doesn't have her powers anymore, so she tells her foster parents that she's really Supergirl. Or that she was. No. Here's what it was. She lets herself get adopted, because when she was Supergirl, she wouldn't let herself get adopted because she didn't know how to live with foster parents. So she lets herself get adopted because she doesn't have powers now. And then later on, she gets powers and has to deal with that again. But yeah, it all ends up with the issue that has the kind of famous cover of Superman and Supergirl flying through the air together with like a ticker tape parade and everything else going on around them. You may have seen that cover from the 60s, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's been homaged a few times.
Yeah.
There have been some crazy Supergirl stories over the years. Some just absolutely just bonkers Supergirl stories. Like, do you remember that first Supergirl? Like, way back in the Silver Age in the 1960s, before it was like the real Supergirl that we know today.
Yeah, the Jimmy Olsen wish one.
Yeah, Jimmy Olsen made a magic wish and she like melted at the end or something. I don't remember exactly. It's been so long, but yeah. And then they reprinted it, and after like they introduced real Supergirl and they changed the color of her costume so nobody would get confused.
And her hair.
Yeah,
they would do tryout stuff like that, which seems so bizarre. They just would test the waters. How are people going to react to a girl in the Superman costume? So we'll do this random story. And they did that with the Legion too. Like a few issues before the first appearance of the Legion was another group of teens from the future who wanted to play with Superboy or whatever. And it was a not quite Legion story. They were just trying out the idea.
That's kind of interesting.
Testing the waters, I suppose.
So, what I've been reading.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Aaron.
Okay. What I've been reading is, well, I'm kind of new to DC. I've just started reading DC stuff like maybe 2 years ago. I've never read The Killing Joke, and I read that last night, and I'm not a big fan of it. I don't get where all the hype is coming from with that.
It's really not that good.
I think I mentioned this on the other podcast, but also, but in terms of my comic reading, I've read a whole bunch of Batman, just like single stories, usually between the 80s and now. And The Killing Joke was definitely one of the ones I've read, and I do like that story, but it's not my favorite, but I do really like it, mainly because I think I like Alan Moore's storytelling ability, I would say. He has an interesting perspective.
Alan
mean,
Moore
I
doesn't
think
even
the,
like the Killing Joke.
Well, I think the appeal of it, though, was that it was just so crazy and so radical. I mean, Batman had been pretty clean up until that point, and you get into the Killing Joke, and there's violence, and there's torture, and there's blood. And the thing with Barbara Gordon, I mean, they paralyzed Barbara Gordon in the Killing Joke, and that was something that was just, it was completely inconceivable at the
It
time.
was shocking.
And really,
Yeah,
really,
I
it killed
remember
her.
when I read it. Sorry.
That's what I mean. Talk you guys. That like the story doesn't. If I recall, the story doesn't end with confirming she's still alive. Like it almost feels like she's killed, and then later comics say no, she's paralyzed. But yeah, it's harsh.
It's a harsh story, and I can understand people not really being fond of it, even though I do enjoy it. But that's nowhere near my favorite Batman stuff I've read. So. But I do appreciate it.
The Joker, I'd never seen a point before that where the Joker was so sadistic,
Yeah.
To piggyback on what Eva said, I think it did a lot of things that were not very common then that are a lot more common now, like the violence and the torture. Getting a backstory for the Joker that was something a bit more interesting than, he used to run around in a red hood, and then he was the Joker. And it almost feels at the end of that book that Batman kills the Joker. And I've been argued with on that, but it kind of feels like that at the end. And I don't think it was the kind of story that was meant to be in continuity. I think it was the kind of story that was supposed to stand on its own. And
it feels like an Elseworld story.
Right, then they bring it in.
Well, because I think they like the idea of paralyzed Barbara Gordon, which works. Oracle works.
Hold on, my vacuum is eating.
DC doesn't exactly have a great record when it comes to feminism.
No,
just in general, at least up until that point.
I remember it.
Yeah, no problem.
I think I liked the Killing Joke when I read it first. I was in high school. I was really into Alan Moore, and then I saw the film, and that's when I started to kind of realize like maybe it wasn't that good to begin with.
Oh my God, the movie is horrible.
Yeah.
The parts where they adapt the Killing Joke is actually fine, and I always love hearing Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah,
give life to the Joker. He always does a good job.
Yeah, Mark Hamill. Kevin Conroy. It's always great to hear.
Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Mark Hamill is my Joker.
I think they probably should have just done. I think instead of trying to pad it out to like a feature length, they should have cut that whole first 30, 40 minutes, whatever. That whole side story with Barbara,
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't think.
That's definitely something that they shouldn't have done, but I'm not going to fault the voice actors or some of the people who worked on it. I'm just saying it's probably not the best decision they've ever made.
Here's my thing. I've read and watched The Killing Joke now, and I've watched interviews with Alan Moore, and Alan Moore doesn't even like The Killing Joke.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, I mean it's
Alan
not
Moore
like
doesn't like anything from DC.
Yeah, what does Alan Moore like?
He doesn't like anything, to be honest.
He's very cynical.
I'm a fucking wizard.
I don't know what he likes. Like I feel like he looks at everything and he gets pissed.
I always remember.
Likes
pretty
James
much.
Joyce. He really likes I don't know, the old British show, the event, not the Marvels. The Marvel's Avengers, the old British show.
Yeah, but give him another 5 years and he'll change on that.
Oh yeah.
Listen. I always remember this interview. I saw Alan Moore, and he was just talking, like he was just rambling. He was like, I draw the image. He's like, I write the image down and I put it in your head. I'm a fucking wizard, man. I put an image from my head into your head, man. It was just the craziest shit he was just talking. I always enjoy watching Alan Moore interviews from like the 80s and 90s. He was bonkers.
His Swamp Thing is on my to-read list.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Someone here had not read Watchmen last time.
Aaron.
Oh.
That was Aaron.
Oh.
I was just listening to that today, y'all. Just so you know.
I was like I said, I'm new to DC, so I haven't got to everything yet.
It's okay. We forgive you. No,
I was surprised in the. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No,
the new TV show Watchmen is just so flippin' amazing.
Oh yeah, HBO's Watchmen was great.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
I loved every second of it.
But it would be harder to access with if you read the book or even see the movie first. There's just a lot of little stuff to be easier to access, even though it does a lot of its own thing.
It does, however, take away more inspiration from the book. It just kind of ignores that movie adaptation, which is weird. You would think you would think like a TV adaptation would take more from like the novel, from the movie than necessarily the original source, but it kind of took from the original source, which I kind of appreciated more because it got to be a little bit more, I don't know, faithful and got to reinterpret the characters in different ways.
There's a giant squid.
There is a giant squid.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have
And
it.
baby squids
I
that
have
rain
it.
down.
Oh, well then
Erin,
that's a homework assignment.
Erin, do you like listening to podcasts like that are talking about the stuff that you're reading?
Sometimes if I like the people who are doing the podcast. Like
Okay, so last time I read Watchmen, it was because some friends of mine were doing a Watchmen deep dive podcast, and I'll have to find the name of it, and I'll tweet it at you later. But yeah,
Okay,
if you-
I'll be into that.
You read a chapter, listen to an episode, that kind of thing.
I get completely castrated all the time. I'm gonna use that word. I don't know why, but everybody shames me for not reading Watchmen. They're like, "Hey, you're like a really big comic book fan. How have you not read this?" And I'm just like, I don't know. I just haven't.
There was a time I actually.
I would love to get castrated sometime.
Why did I say that?
That's the quote of the night.
Why did I say
I'm
that?
just saying.
I actually think that should be the quote for the beginning of this episode.
You think?
Why is it?
Okay.
It's always gonna be me, isn't it? Because I always say the most random junk.
Speaking of junk.
Junk.
Am I the only one
It's
here
okay.
that's smoking? They tell me to get high. They message me in my DMs and tell me to get stoned.
I have alcohol. It's not the
I
same.
force
but
you
it's-
to?
Crystal forces me to smoke.
I
Well,
forced
yeah, you
you?
see, we hold the joint to our
I
head.
can't be on the podcast anymore, she said, if I
No, that
don't.
was all me. That was me. That was me. I said, Aaron, you gotta get
Oh,
high.
it wasn't
You have
you.
to. It's a
You're a
requirement.
bad influence, and I keep calling
No.
you mother.
No, you should not.
I don't think I actually said that. But
Yes,
I
Mom.
said to get high. I didn't say get high on what on, you know? I didn't specifically say what you should get high on.
Get
I
high
don't
on
drink.
life.
You guys don't want me to drink.
I don't drink. I don't drink. I'm pretty clean. I mean, I do a little bit of cocaine, but that's kind of normal, right? Everybody does that.
That's all I do.
well, that's good.
Hey,
I
Stephen
have my
King
medical
did that.
card.
did
I
You
coke.
guys
think
wanna
Aaron
see
would
it?
smoke with or without us.
Stephen King did coke, so I'd be in good company.
Everybody in the 80s did coke.
Yeah, I was
That's
going to
true.
say, it was the 80s. Everyone did
Max.
coke.
That's true. I mean, how
Yeah,
do you
true.
think it came about? You know, that wasn't a sober mind
He directed Maximum Overdrive on cocaine.
the entire time. And if you watch the movie, it makes sense.
I love. Okay, so
Cameo from Maximum Overdrive, or did you see the movie?
I haven't seen
I
it.
saw like a review of it like many years ago, but I don't really remember much.
There's a
from it.
cameo of King in the movie, and he's in it, and he goes up to a ATM machine, and the ATM machine on the computer screen writes "You are an asshole," and then he does like this very much Jordy Verrill from the Creep Show sort of like exaggerated acting voice that he puts on. He goes,
Oh.
"This machine called me an asshole."
okay, so I have a question. I want to kind of shift things in a different direction, if that's all right.
All right.
Sure.
So it's almost October. I almost said it's almost Halloween. God forbid. That means
Ooh,
October's
spooky
over.
time.
But it's almost spooky month, and I want to ask you, everybody, what is your number one go-to horror movie for like October? Like a movie that you have to see every year in that season.
So I actually do. I have a movie review blog, and I review every year. I do horror movie reviews. So I watch like a bunch of old horror movies, ranging from like very old to today. I actually haven't compiled the list for this year, but I'm going to be working on that.
I haven't
Horror.
compiled my list either. I do 31 horror movies through October,
Ooh,
but
wow.
I don't do like a blog or anything on them. I just sit down, I smoke, and just enjoy the movie, you know? And
As for it's sort of a cliched answer, but I usually rewatch The Thing if I'm in the mood
Oh.
for a horror movie.
That's a great choice.
okay.
Yeah.
My family doesn't like horror movies, so I don't get to watch a lot of horror movies.
Oh.
But if I were to instead name a favorite horror movie / franchise, I grew up on the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and they're still
Okay.
my first love.
Oh,
That's fair.
Yeah,
Nice.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2 because it's like this huge coming out metaphor, and Nightmare on Elm Street 3
It is.
because it's a fantastic just horror film.
Oh, was it Dream Warriors? Dream Warriors is awesome. I'm a big Wes Craven fan. Okay, Wes Craven is one of my favorite filmmakers, and of course Robert Englund's in all the, he's Freddy, and I met Robert Englund once. He's the nicest.
Cool.
He's the nicest guy. I love him.
I was listening. I had heard like he auditioned for Star Wars, and I wanted to get more information on that.
I have that.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the time that George Lucas was doing auditions for Star Wars, Robert Englund had auditioned, I believe, for the role of Han Solo, and he didn't get the role. And he came home to his roommate and told his roommate, "Hey, you should go down there to the studio and audition for this crazy sci-fi movie." And his roommate ended up being Mark Hamill.
Oh.
So
what a great story.
Yeah, that's his connection to it all. That's I heard about that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And what's almost as crazy as the
Can you imagine though how different that would be if he actually got
Yeah,
it?
right. Like
It would be a completely different film.
That would be.
I want a sitcom where Robert Englund and Mark Hamill are living in the same apartment as like early 20-somethings.
Yeah.
Did Mark Hamill ever be in anything with Robert Englund? I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I don't know. I honestly.
Mark's been in a lot of weird random roles, but Robert
has
has
been a
been.
lot of weird random roles.
Yeah.
He was
Okay,
like in the Diver and stuff like that.
Erin, I wanted to circle back to your
Yes.
question about go-to horror movies. Honestly, every year I rotate, but when it gets in the Halloween season, that's a season where I choose horror that's a little bit more on the fun side.
This is my son saying hi.
Hi. I usually choose horror that's a little bit more fun or more that I'm familiar with. So ones that I go back to is obviously my favorite horror movie of all time, Evil Dead 2.
Oh my God! Here we go.
Brother loved that film. I still need to watch it.
And then another one that's an easy pickup for me is Child's Play, the first one.
Oh, Brad Dourif. I love him.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I want to answer mine. I want to answer my own question.
Go ahead.
I'm psyched to do. Every Halloween, I always, like the days leading up to Halloween, I always watch the original Romero Dawn of the Dead trilogy, the Night of the Living
Nice.
Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. I have to watch that every year.
Those are great movies.
Yes, they are.
My absolute favorite movies. I watch Halloween every year, obviously. I'm a really big fan of Halloween. And then usually I try to watch new things. I'll watch anything from like Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi era, like all the way up to like modern.
Actually, I over the summer, and I'm still technically doing this because anxiety's been really hard. I was watching the Universal Monsters and doing
Classics.
reviews of all those films. Yeah. So
You
I'm
can't go
from,
wrong
like,
with those.
the-
I said you can't go wrong with the Universal
No, you
Monsters.
can't. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with Evil Dead as well. Like
Nope.
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite. Bruce Campbell is, if I had one like older man crush, like in like my 60s, it'd probably be Bruce. He's a great guy. I love Bruce. He's got such good chemistry, and the chin. Hail to the chin, baby. It's all about that chin power.
He has made a lasting impression upon the horror community, and I think those films work because he's in the role. Like, I don't know if anyone else could appropriately fill out Ash.
I mean, he was just a kid when he got that role. He was just,
Right.
He was buddies with Sam. I mean, the Raimi brothers. He was just they're friends with them, and they're like, "Hey, you look good, and we know about film. We're gonna put you on film," and that's, the rest is history.
Exactly.
Have you all seen the musical?
Yes, I have.
There's
The
I
Evil
saw it
Dead
in
musical?
Vegas.
What did you
Yes.
think?
there's a musical. Well, how did I not know about this?
There's a
It's
musical.
funny.
Oh, and it is awesome.
It's
Oh
funny.
my
There's
god.
the first couple rows.
I think it's better than the movie.
The first couple rows of the audience for the musical, it's called the Splash Zone, and they throw blood on the audience.
Hey, I got it right here on YouTube. There's a full like, it's an hour and a half long.
Oh, nice. My favorite song in it is "What the fuck was that?"
I'm gonna add it to my watch list. Thank you so much.
It's very funny, and it's
I'll,
like
prob-
it's a love letter to the
I'll
series.
probably enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
With
I
Bruce
love-
Campbell, I'm just kind of wondering now, like, what cameo he'll have in the next Doctor Strange movie.
Oh, he's gonna. I heard he was gonna play a villain. He was in talks to play like a villain or like a villain sidekick or something.
Fuck it, he should just play Ash.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, he should just
Like,
because he hops from
Marvel
dimension to
has-
dimension.
Yeah.
Like
But it is
Ash.
Evil Dead dimension.
Yeah.
License now, so
There hasn't been a Marvel crossover comic with Evil Dead, has there yet? Or no?
Don't
No,
know.
there were Evil Dead comics, but it was not Marvel. It was Boom
Dynamite?
or Dynamite or somebody.
Yeah, because I read is it Darkman versus Evil Dead?
There's
I read
still,
that story.
There's still Evil Dead comics coming out every
Yeah,
not every
they were
week
doing
but
a
like
comic series on,
monthly. I think
yeah, they
it's
were doing-
Dynamite. Yeah, Death to Army of Darkness is the current one that's coming out next week. It's the series finale for that.
Yeah, they've done Freddy versus Jason
Oh,
versus
those
Ash.
those are really rare. Like
Yeah.
I cannot find like a collected edition of that for less than like $90.
Can you believe that actually almost they were seriously having conversations about making that a movie?
Yeah, because
After-
sorry.
No, that's okay.
The Necronomicon shows up in Jason Goes to Hell.
Yes, it does. And Freddy versus Jason was so successful, they probably could have made it.
Probably.
Because I from what I remember, that movie made a whole bunch of money when it came out.
What movie? Freddy vs. Jason?
Yeah, Freddy versus Jason.
Oh, I don't like Freddy vs. Jason, but yeah, it was
don't?
probably insanely popular at the box office.
I
No,
actually like Freddy
no.
versus
I don't
Jason.
like any of the Friday the 13th movies, and I only watch them for the. Actually, no, I take that back. I like Friday the 13th 4 because Tom Savini did amazing effects in that movie. But other than that, they're just all kind of laughable, and it just get worse and worse as they go. And I've seen them many times too. Like I know them in and out.
I liked the second movie, and then the sixth movie up to I think Jason Goes to Man. I forgot which one that was, but Jason Goes to Manhattan.
7. That's 7,
He
right?
kicks the boombox.
Takes Manhattan an 8, I thought, but
Oh, you might be right. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I used to
I
watch
love
horror
it.
movies with my my daughter because she was the only one in the family who would when she was younger, and then her anxiety started getting bad as an adolescent, so she was not so much. But I remember watching Friday the 13th Part 2 with her, and her takeaway from it was there was not a single drop of blood in that entire movie. I see more blood every month than I saw in that film.
Yeah, I did like a whole retrospect. I also do horror franchise retrospective in the summer, which is what the Universal Monsters thing was. And 2 years ago, I did one on the Friday the 13th movies. I looked into all these into all this history and all these interviews, and like apparently censorship was very strict on these movies. So like you would really like sometimes they would have close-ups, sometimes they would just cut out scenes because they were too gory.
That's
did that.
part of the point of the film.
They butchered 4. I mentioned 4 as my favorite film because Tom Savini, he did the effects on it, and I absolutely love Tom Savini and the work that he does. But they cut out a lot of stuff, a lot of like good effects and like a lot of good kills. They cut out.
They did the same thing with Michael Myers.
Halloween.
I think the
Halloween movies.
in the 80s
Yeah.
it had become very the era had become very conservative in general, and censorship was, as much as we were getting like these films that were exceedingly gory, we were also getting moments where the MPAA and studios had to like we're basically hacking some films, you know.
It's like a backlash. Like we're gonna have this surge in slasher films, and so they're gonna have to swing the pendulum the other way. So we're not gonna let you have any fun with that.
Yeah, that's why in
Yeah, exactly.
Evil Dead 2 specifically, they tried to make the blood different colors because they were attempting to.
Oh, it's green.
Yeah, it was green at times. I mean,
Yeah.
there was red and there was gore for sure, but it also lots of moments of just kind of like green and lots of moment of like black as well. And
Remember
They-
orange in the first Evil Dead film?
in the
Maybe?
first one, it was red. It was red,
Okay.
but it was
I
just.
saw something with orange blood in it, but yeah.
It may have just been like orangish looking because it was still like a small film, so maybe the blood wasn't like necessarily like.
Yeah.
But in the second one, they had so much more money. I mean, still not a lot, but comparatively, they had more. What's crazy is that they tried to make their blood different colors, and the ratings still gave it an X rating for the time, which is crazy because that movie's pretty tame.
Crazy.
I remember like reading about in Psycho, the blood was, because it's a black and white movie, it was the blood was, I think, actually a blackish, grayish color, but it just kind of looks red on screen.
In Psycho, you said?
Yeah.
They used
Hershey's syrup.
Hershey's syrup for that.
Yeah.
Because it was in black and white, yeah.
I'm from like 10 miles south of Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Can you smell the factory?
I was wondering the same thing.
No. But you can if you get close enough to like the actual factory. Like
Oh,
you
really?
can smell the chocolate. Yeah.
That's cool.
My sister lives in Pennsylvania, so I've been there a few times.
There's a theme park there too, I believe.
Yeah, like a little animatronic thing where they tell you how to make chocolate.
Yeah.
Keep on.
Is it similar to the animatronic little thing that you see in the first Shrek film, if you remember that?
Oh,
Yeah, it's like that.
I feel like I made a reference that went over a little bit.
Was it like a
Yeah.
short film in front of Shrek, or was it during Shrek?
No, it was during Shrek.
During-
It's when Shrek and Donkey make it to Farquaad's castle, and there's like a little like booth thing, and it has like some rules for being there, but they're like little animatronic puppet things.
I've only seen Shrek
been a-
one time.
It's been a while since I've seen it. I guess I need to watch it again.
That was the movie. That was a moment where they made like, they did one of those like family movies where they almost say a curse word but they don't. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like shine your shoes, wipe your face.
Wipe your
That ass.
donkey.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that.
So
Recently, I'm hearing a lot about like how like apparently that was like Shrek was specifically like, or that scene was sort of like that, take that to Disney.
Oh yeah, it was Jeffrey Katzenberg being a petty asshole to Disney.
Yeah.
Because
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Lindsay Ellis's video on sort of the Disney. I think it was on Robin Williams. They specifically mentioned it, but she kept having this circular thing about calling Jeffrey Katzenberg a petty asshole because that's all he did. It's like, they apparently like there's like this 2006 Disney movie called The Wild, and it's basically Madagascar, but like the problem is that because Jeffrey Katzenberg was over at DreamWorks or whatever, they jumped the gun and made Madagascar faster than they finished The Wild. So
They
Disney
did the same thing with ants.
Yeah, they did the same thing with ants and Bugs Life and Ants. Basically, they found the idea that they found the idea and then they ran and made a faster movie with it, which is hilarious. So you can thank Katzenberg for being such a petty asshole. And what's even funnier is when he was in charge of Disney and releasing Aladdin in the early 90s, he was able to do that with Aladdin, making it before what's that other film? The Thief
and the Cobbler.
The Thief and the Cobbler. That's right.
Yeah, that was like a long. That was like a film with like a very, very long animation history, like going back to like the 1960s, and then
Right, and I mean that's Katzenberg for you.
Yeah.
Is it the same guy who completely ripped off another film to make The Lion King? Wasn't there a film with
Oh yeah, you're talking about
white-furred lion cub?
right,
Kimba the White Lion.
Kimba the White Lion. Yeah.
Yeah, Kimba.
That's kind of complicated in that
Seen that
regard
one.
because the story of Kimba the White Lion, it's like both stories were influenced by Bambi, like Osamu Tezuka, who was called in Japan the god of manga. He was really influenced by Disney. He really loved the movie Bambi, and so he basically made Bambi in Africa with Kimba the White Lion. And then when they made The Lion King, that was the same idea, like Bambi in Africa. So
I never thought of it as
Or not
Bambi before,
really.
but yeah.
Very interesting to look back at who. I think this kind of connects back to a comic conversation about like who really gets credit for making a thing and how much is something stealing versus how much is just coincidentally having the same thing or similar things. It's like
Yeah.
we get these weird moments where it's like, do you remember when The Prestige came out alongside The Illusionist, like within a couple months of each other. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah,
So I don't remember.
okay, yeah, because The Prestige is the Christopher Nolan movie with was that Hugh Jackman? Yeah, that was Hugh Jackman. And then The
Was
Illusionist.
it Jim Carrey in that one, or am I thinking of? No, I'm thinking of The Majestic.
No, that's The Majestic. Yeah, and then The Illusionist was Edward Norton. And from what I recall, they're not really similar films, but they just both tend to be about magicians in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they just happen to come out within a year of each other. There's some weird
Interesting.
coincidence stuff like that.
I've never seen The Prestige, but I know the big twist of it because, like, at least it's been referenced like a dozen times. Like, whenever like a character fakes their death, like, oh, I've done a Prestige.
It's a good movie, but I haven't seen it in years, and I don't think it's one of Nolan's best films, but Nolan's a good director, so he made a good movie anyway.
I've sort of turned on I still like Batman Begins, but The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Returns I've kind of like turned against. Like, I don't really like them as much as I did back like 8 years ago.
I need to see the Dark Knight again.
Yeah.
But I remember really liking that one the most. But I also really enjoy Batman Begins. So I think even the weakest Nolan like Batman movie is still like better than some other people's attempts. You know what I mean? It's just like I think he's a good filmmaker. So like even if you don't like his film as much, you can still see the quality,
Uh-huh.
So
I
I mean,
enjoyed
like,
all three of them, but I don't think I'd watch them again. They were fun to sit down and enjoy for what they were, but they weren't the kind of films that I would really sit down and say, wow, I just have to watch that, 119 times like I did with The Little Mermaid.
Right.
When did Rises come out? Was that like 10 or 11?
that was 12.
2012.
2012. That
But
was
I haven't seen any of them since that one came out.
okay.
And I feel like I could probably sit down and watch them all again at this point, but it's been 8 years. They're high stamina movies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
kind of dense.
You got to buckle in for
This
them.
isn't bad, though.
No, it's not. I had a similar feeling whenever I rewatched Captain America: The Winter Soldier recently. Like, there's a lot going on in that movie, and I was watching with my son, and we stopped it halfway through, and I honestly felt like I had seen a movie's worth of story, and we came back the next morning and finished it off, and it was like,
That and Civil War I do agree with. Like, it does feel like a lot of stuff happens in those.
I still think the Winter Soldier might be one of the best efforts from Marvel in terms of really cementing their universe and hitting some really important like high stakes points. I feel like that's a sign of the talent of the Russos, though, because I've liked every film that they worked on. I feel like there's been this weird sort of, I don't know, backlash to their films, and I don't know if it's legit not liking it or if it's posturing. I don't want to like assume people's intentions or whatever, but
I enjoyed the Russo. I enjoyed like at least like the Marvel movies the Russos made. I may have seen their like Community episodes, but I can't really remember which one.
They wrote the majority of the Community episodes.
Oh, really?
Yep, they wrote most, like 70% of them.
Huh.
Oh,
Like all the good ones you're thinking about, like those were the Russo brothers.
okay, that makes sense.
I need to see more of Community. I remember seeing the first episode when it aired and not being too impressed with it, and then not continuing it. But then everyone was like,
you're
"This
missing
show's
out."
great," you know.
I had the same experience with it. I tried to. I got like halfway through the first season, and I'm like, man, I don't want to watch.
It gets
this.
better. It gets better.
Does it?
Yeah, it gets way better.
But they said the same thing about Star Wars, Eva. Run away, run away.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Hey.
I know they did.
Like, it.
No shade to Star
Wars.
Wars.
4 seasons, and then it just starts to falter after that.
No, I love Star Wars. Like I said, y'all's conversation with the last episode was in my head literally right before we came on here. So
I'm so sorry.
I remember all the jokes I were having. It was great.
You
I have to
like Star Wars.
I have to confess though, with thanks, I'm a big fan of two things that y'all really don't like, and you are talking about it at the beginning of the show last episode. And I was like, oh no, what am I getting into by coming on tonight? And those
I'm sorry.
No,
Oh,
it's
no.
fine. It's fine. It's y'all's opinions, and that's great. But I do want to thank y'all for not going down the Zack Snyder nor Golden Age comics route today. Because I would have felt defensive.
Oh, don't get me
I'm
started
really
on
torn
Zack
Golden
Snyder.
Age comics.
I haven't seen actually that many Zack Snyder. I've seen his DC stuff. That's pretty much it.
I've got a hot take on Zack Snyder. I would not consider myself a Zack Snyder fangirl, but I think his movies are generally okay. Like Man of Steel, for example. I love Man of Steel. I really enjoyed it. Dawn of Justice, whatever. And then Justice
Wasn't
League.
his movie.
Ugh, I know. But yeah, Justice League was the worst fucking movie ever made.
Okay.
Dawn of the
It was
Dead.
Dawn of the Dead is actually, I don't know. I'm getting more sour on that movie as years go on.
Worst remake ever.
I enjoyed it when I saw it years ago, but I don't know. I just feel like
Watch the original and then watch the remake.
oh,
It's
I
like-
know. I love the
it's-
original.
It's like Zack Snyder. What were you smoking?
So
At least he did his own thing.
Every horror movie that came out that year was bad, though. Like, for example, did you see Vampires with the dollar sign in it?
No.
What?
Oh, God. Yeah, it was terrible. They came out at the same time as Dawn of the Dead, and it was just absolutely horrendous.
Wasn't there?
There's another one.
Wasn't not Day of the Dead. There was a Land of the Dead came out the same year.
Yeah.
But that was
Before time.
Romero's.
That was
an
okay.
actual Romero.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was an actual
I know about
Romero.
Land of the Dead because Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg make cameos in it.
They
because
do.
That's fine. That's
Romero
fine.
loved Shaun of the Dead, and
That's the only thing I remember.
God bless
So-
Romero.
I saw Man of Steel on my birthday because it came out June 14th, which is my birthday back in 2013, and it was the last superhero film my wife saw with me in theaters because she doesn't really like superheroes, and that one was long, and she came out of it saying she'd never go to another superhero movie with me again. So that was a good birthday present. But I really, really, really liked that. And then, of course, the world tends to explode after some movies, and it does it a lot more commonly now. It wasn't quite as common in 2013, so there's a lot of defending my opinion and therefore digging into it more. So whenever Batman v Superman came down the road and I saw that and really liked it, I think the really intense backlash to that film just made it spend even more time in my head, and I would cogitate on it and think about it and break it down and put it back together, and there are a couple moments in there that actually have some serious emotional resonance with my own trauma drama from my own life. So yeah, my feelings about Batman v Superman are kind of complex and deep, but I definitely really, really like that film. I saw Justice League and I had a good time while watching it, but I could tell that wasn't really that well put together, and it definitely was not the movie that the previous two films promised. So whenever the whole talk about re-releasing it next year was started coming up, I was very, very excited about that. So I'd like to see something like what was originally planned.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just thinking because I've been, in and out of different geek communities online for several years, and I feel like for some reason the Batman v Superman Zack Snyder-ish has kind of weirdly coalesced at a time when the alt-right began to grow. And I'm not specifically saying that Snyder fans are necessarily that. What I am saying is that I feel like that toxicity has mixed into the weird infighting of the geek community. And sometimes it's hard to even just basically talk about this stuff anymore because of how heightened everything is. That's why I try and not bring up too much about Snyder stuff on my own timeline because I feel like I've talked about that in to death, but my feelings on it are very, very complex. And I don't hate Snyder. I just hate the toxic attitude around certain parts of the fandom. If that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. For me, with Snyder, it's kind of, I'm mixed on his films. I did like Watchmen.
Yeah,
But
I like Watchmen.
in retrospect, I don't know how much of the good stuff was him, or it was just him doing the comic very faithfully. Like, I
Also,
wasn't sure.
David Hayter wrote the script too.
Yeah. Solid Snake.
Yep.
So
Sorry, Aaron. I saw your hand up, and I was working through my own mental process. So
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. Batman
Yes.
v Superman is the one that gets all the hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Me personally, I don't understand that because I've only seen the movie one time, and the version I watched was the Riff Tracks version.
Oh,
So I had it's like close to 3-hour runtime, and I had a pretty good goddamn time with it.
I saw the theatrical version 3 times, and I saw the director's cut or extended edition once. And personally, I feel like I enjoyed it the first time, but then every subsequent viewing was lesser.
That's how I feel with Star Wars.
It just kind of broke itself apart. For me with Star Wars, it gets better every time I see it.
Maybe the original trilogy, but everything that came after it just gets worse and worse every time I see it, unless I'm watching like a Riff Tracks version of it. And
Last Jedi got better for me.
No.
For me.
You're gonna have to
Everyone
excuse
has
me
their
for being a
own-
normie here.
I'm gonna
But,
invalidate you.
what's a riff track?
Riff
Oh,
Tracks?
it's Mystery
You know,
Science
the-
Theater 3000. Do you remember that? It's basically they do it now with some of the original members. They do it on their website. You buy MP3 audio, and they do it for like a whole bunch of movies.
It's awesome.
So yeah, it's just the audio version of that.
And you played it along with the movie.
Yeah, I still need to see on my list, but I just haven't had the time to sit down and do it because I'm such a Weird Al fan. Weird Al did the Jurassic Park one with them, and I need to listen to that one.
I believe I saw
love
that.
I love his parody of MacArthur Park, Jurassic Park.
Oh, that song in the music video is hysterical.
I can, yeah. The lyrics of that song haven't left my brain since 1995.
I don't know if it came across. This may have not come across your view of everything, but I don't know if you saw the article that I wrote about Weird Al.
Yeah, I
don't
read.
think I
It's
have.
pretty good.
Okay, I can send it your way, John, if you want to read it. But I wrote about my own experiences using Al's music as sort of like a lifeline when I was young.
Yeah, I really like that.
It was
If
a
you
good
go to my
piece.
Medium, you can read it. It's
Did
on
you
my
recently tweet it? Because I'm on your Twitter right now.
account. Okay, I did tweet it, but it was like a week or two ago. And I do
Okay,
tweet a
I'll
lot.
scroll through. I'll find it.
Okay, it's the one that got like one of my largest tweets ever. It got like over 300 likes for some reason. But I and the best thing about that was even Weird Al saw.
That's fun.
That,
Did Weird Al actually interact with that one?
No, he liked it though.
That's cool.
No shit, really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
That is
You
beautiful.
got
Okay.
noticed by the Weirdy himself.
I did, and I've met him like 4 times.
Big names that you've interacted with to some degree online. I have emailed back and forth with Stan Lee and Anne Rice.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Anyone have like somebody like your stuff on Twitter, or they responded to something you did?
We're all part of the Gail Simone fan club.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
talked
Gail
to her,
Simone.
she talks to
Rob
us.
Liefeld knows me by my first name.
Right
That's
on.
awesome.
He retweeted me once.
He always retweets me. I'm a trauma girl too. Lloyd Kaufman and me talk back and forth.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
That's pretty cool.
Trauma is the best.
pretty much
I,
every
big
big trans porn star I've met as well. I don't know if that's celebrity, but
That's
I've
something.
Well, that
I've met a
counts.
lot
That
of the
counts.
big trans porn stars.
It's cool.
I haven't really met many famous. The one really famous person I met when I was 6, I met John Elway.
Oh, cool.
I was at like the Denver airport. My dad and I were gonna go to Cincinnati, and then we met. And then my dad said, "Oh, it's John Elway."
Oh, nice.
Do you mind if I tell the Stan Lee story? Because that was one that was really cool.
Okay.
Sure.
So
Alright.
I had a Spider-Man podcast some 10 or 12 years ago, and I guess 10 years ago. And we had this random question that came up in our conversation on the podcast. And so I emailed the question to Marvel. I just used the Spider-Man email that comes in the letter column. And I was like, so I don't know if y'all know this, but here's my question, blah, 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 blah. And they forwarded my email to Stan Lee. And so then Stan Lee replies to the email. And
Wow.
and they reprinted the conversation in the letter column.
Oh, that's
And-
awesome.
That's awesome.
And there was like one more I replied and Stan replied back once, and it kind of ended it. I didn't want to, overstep my welcome. I did
Right.
send him a birthday wish.
So what you doing tonight?
Right.
What you having for dinner, Stan?
That's really cool.
I,
I've met Stan twice, but never really like interacted in that way. It's more like, hi, I have a thing. Can you sign? Thank you.
Yeah, I met Stan the same way back in '93 at the
Yeah.
New York Comic Con.
That's fun.
That's cool.
Because he still would have been like, pretty coherent and everything.
Oh yeah,
The,
he was. I handed him my book and I said, "Dude, your work has changed my life." And he said, "Well, I'm glad I could help."
Oh.
That was it.
Honestly, though, his and Ditko's first 20 issues of Spider-Man, they were my first comics, and they kind of taught me what it means to be a person. So,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, same here. My dad bought an early reprint of early Spider-Man, and that was the first comic book that I ever had experience with at like 4 years old.
were they by chance those little paperbacks that came out in the late 70s that had like 7 or 8 issues
Yeah.
inside the paperback?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
They
I
were
had. I had the 3
incredible.
volumes.
Oh my God, we have something in common.
Yeah,
No, this
I
was
got it
way
when I was
before
like
the
6 years old.
Masterworks.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a couple of. I think I'm like 2 years older than you. So yeah, it was
Okay.
about the same time.
Yeah, I was 6 years old. I had the chicken pox. My dad got me those 3 books that had something to do, and I reread those first 20 issues of Spider-Man. I reread them 50 times if I reread them once, and
Oh yeah.
those were my only comics until I was like 11 years old and went to the first comic shop. So
I was like 4, and I read through them. I was steadfast and determined. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I am going to write Spider-Man and make comics and draw comics and do comics. It didn't quite
Oh.
work out that way, but I came close. It was all very exciting.
I have something like along those lines as well from my
Go for it.
youth I'd like to share. So I come from, I'm just going to touch briefly on this. I come from a very abusive family, and I didn't get lunch money when I was in school. Like my parents didn't give me lunch money. So when I was like younger, like 4th, 5th, 6th grade, I would draw and like write comics and like sell them to my classmates for money, for food. You get like, I think lunch was like $2.75. You can make that in a day easy. And I would be in like every class, like drawing and writing like just the stupidest comics, coming up with ideas and stuff. And yeah, I always remember that, like, for, it wasn't like all the time, but like I remember, if I needed a pinch or not, I could do a comic book and sell it to a couple kids for like, quarter, 50 cents.
it's both adorable and sad. It's like really strongly both.
Yeah, but that's where I'm like, hey, I want to do like this for a living, but I've never had like an artist like a hand, but I'm really good with my words. Like I've always been like really into creative writing and stuff, and like comic books gave me that.
That's awesome.
Dope.
I also came from sort of an abusive situation, and for me, comics just sort of they were my window into another world. They sort of helped me escape, and I really felt like comics was the only medium that really got me, as a person. No matter what else I read, I mean, there was nothing. I never really got the feeling from any other type of literature or book that, this thing really understands me as a person.
I just turned 27,
Yeah.
and I've been reading comics since goddamn as long as I can remember, and I hope I never stop
Nice.
reading comics.
I think
Same here.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
Also, Erin, you are valid and you are awesome and you are
This
beautiful.
is very
And
true.
Okay,
We
thank
love
you.
you very much.
I love you guys too. Just quietly turn the camera off.
You could if you want to.
I mean, this is an
Good. By the time it makes it to podcast, it doesn't actually, show up with the camera. The camera's totally arbitrary.
It's good to connect with people face to face, though. Like when
Yes.
you're talking to them. Like I like seeing Crystal's reactions. And I like seeing people chuckle and stuff. Like it creates like this chemistry that you can't get with just voice.
Right, but we're trying to do that on a podcast.
I tend to avoid using the camera, and you had yours on, Erin, so I turned mine on because a lot of times there's this one guy I podcast with, and he always has his camera on, and I'm always like, I don't want to show my face on the camera, but I think I will next time.
I'm a Twitch streamer, so like I'm just always used to having like the camera on.
Yeah, I like
Sorry.
seeing Erin's face. It helps me, I don't know, interact a bit more.
Does it?
People.
I'm always like wandering off and like looking off and like doing something else while I'm listening to you guys.
Yeah,
like,
but I get to see your eyes.
And I'm just pretending that Eva's face is live, and she's just really, really still all the time.
That's awesome.
Doesn't move.
I mean,
much.
it works.
My camera's sort of broken right now. I've got a really nice camera, actually. It's just
How are your eyes? You don't blink
I'm
a
having
lot.
hardware problems. I know. I'm a great ventriloquist.
It's possible that
Very
Ren is a
seriously.
Smurf with an R tattoo, and we're just zoomed in really tight.
That's true.
The only
should-
reason
Well, I
Bring on
happen
this
to know that
camera.
Ren is ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
She is. She's amazing.
The only reason I don't have the camera on, I haven't shaved in a few days, and I'm really dysphoric about that. So
Oh yeah, you
Fair
don't need
enough.
to explain to us.
Moses
completely understand.
split the Red Sea on my neck. This is totally natural.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, but I thought maybe it would be too rude.
No, it's fine. A year ago, I had never worn a beard before, and then I just started growing it out. I stopped shaving, and then pandemic happened, and I stopped doing anything. And then whenever I had to go back to society to teach middle school, I was like, I'll just trim it up a little bit, but I kind of like it now. So
You said you're a teacher
mm-hmm.
and you're like in the classroom, right? Like day to day now.
Yeah. So the way our district is doing it is each kid had the choice between going to school or going virtually. And so I teach 6 classes, 4 of which are face-to-face, 2 of which are completely online.
Huh.
So
Nice.
we all have masks on, and in the last week or 2, people have been getting a little bit lazier about them. But for the first month, it was like I almost never saw faces. It was just like 99+% adherence.
So what subject do you teach?
It's great
Yeah.
maths.
Okay. So
Oh.
I was thinking the other day, and I do this often, and I think about teachers that have like inspired me to do better in my life. From my past, I could roll like 3 or 4 teachers right now. So I just wanted to let you know, like, what you do, like 15 years from now, those kids are going to be thinking about you and the impact that you had on those kids. And I think that's like an incredible thing. Like, you're going to stay with them for the rest of their life. And as an adult, I understand that now. I can always think back my creative writing teacher. She always encouraged me to write. She wouldn't give me like a prompt. She would just let me write what I wanted to. And I always, every day, just a daily day, you're thinking about people that impacted you. And I always come back to my teachers.
Well, thank you very much. That's very, very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids are fantastic. And 8th grade is a really fun age. That like 13, 14-year-old is great personalities there.
I think
Thank
this
you.
call is filled with great personalities.
I really like this with 4 people or 5 people just sort of hanging out and just talking about stuff. It's great.
Oh, just hanging around talking is fun.
Like a Discord
Yeah.
call.
Except we're
Totally.
recording this and the people will listen to it.
Yeah.
Later,
Hi, people.
yeah.
I mean, hopefully.
My name is Erin.
Greetings, people of the universe.
Hello.
We are here.
The gals of geekdom will take over your eardrums.
Your ears only make us stronger.
Oh, sure. That's the outer limits, I guess. Do not adjust your television set. We control the transmission.
We control the wiggly waggly.
I wish I still had my soundboard.
I just started thinking about the voice for a second there. I was thinking, oh, this would be a great moment to fit in Bane from The Dark Knight Rises.
Break the bird! No, you gotta think about the episode, the Harley Quinn cartoon. I was born
Yes.
in the darkness. I must heal you. It's just so funny.
Oh,
I love the cartoon. Oh my god, Harley Quinn on HBO is
It's good.
I
so
would do
perfect.
that voice with my children, and sometimes they would even laugh.
I like Gordon.
Bane was the sleeper character there. He's
He's
the
great.
best.
I like Gordon. He's probably my favorite character. I like when he goes into like the Gotham PD and he's just like, Barbara's like, do you need any help? He's like, no, I got this. He's like drunk as shit with like the gun. And he's just like killing everybody. I'm a damn good cop. I'm a goddamn good cop.
I need to go back to it, but I still think one of the best cartoon moments was within the first like 2 minutes of the first episode. Hello, fellow whites. Here's a toast to what we like to do most: fucking the poor.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm gonna put that on
was
when
awesome.
we get off of here. I'm gonna rewatch probably the first season. I need to make dinner, so I'm probably gonna sit down and watch it.
Nice.
That line,
I loved it. As somebody who's ethnically Jewish, the Harley Quinn show just really kind of had a lot of.
I
fun
wanted you to
Jewish
marry
humor
a
in it,
doctor,
and,
Mom. I am a doctor.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get you because I'm Jewish too. So like, I understood that. Like, it really hit on a lot of notes.
Oh, totally. And there's like little Yiddish jokes everywhere, and it is so great. I love that the culture is just sort of being enjoyed and celebrated in a fun way
I
there.
love it. I don't know if you guys have read the recent Harley Quinn run by Sam Humphries, but it feels very similar to the show.
Nice.
I read
I like that.
I read the Connor Palmiotti run.
Okay,
Which
so
also
that was right before Sam Humphries, I believe. But it just recently ended. It ended on issue 75. They had the finale, and honestly, when a comic book makes you like a grown adult sit there and cry, you know that the writer's doing something good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think when any story, that could be the case too.
I tweeted at Sam. I was like, "Stop making me cry," because like every book I read of his, I end up crying.
I haven't cried at that many books, but I don't know. There was this one called The Chosen by Chaim Potok that I read. I think it was the sequel to that made me cry, called The Promise. And then there was this Star Trek book that I read. And my wife laughs at me every time I mention this, but there was a Star Trek book, and it made me cry. It's about these Andorians. And,
I'm not laughing. She's
Oh.
laughing. I'm not laughing.
I'm not laughing as a mean way, just in a I understand.
yeah.
I cannot fathom how Star Trek made you cry. Star Trek has just never been. I've been opposed to anything Trekkie. Okay.
Oh my God! How can you say that? Star Trek
Because
is
I
awesome.
know that the
Thank you,
Wars
Eva.
is awesome. Okay.
I don't like Star Trek. I like the few episodes I've seen from like the various series.
I like anything with star at the front of it.
Star Search.
Dark.
Yeah.
Hey,
there you go.
Ed McMahon was awesome. Okay, I'm just saying.
My favorite captain.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
My son is 11, and he and I've been showing him about once a week. I've been showing him an original series episode of Star Trek. And at first,
nice.
he was a reluctant viewer. I was like, this is one of my favorite things. You're really close to your grandfather. It's one of his favorite things. He was watching these episodes when they were new. I really think you'll like it if you'll just give it a chance. And after about 5 episodes, he was getting kind of into it. And by the end of the season, he's really into it. So we just finished the first season. We're going to start second season on Monday.
Nice.
I would go back and try the original Star Trek, but William Shatner blocked me on Twitter, so he can go fuck himself. I'm not gonna watch anything he's been in.
I haven't.
Well, William Shatner is old and demented at this point, though.
Yeah.
He's not the same
That's
person
true
as he used
too.
to
That's
be.
true too. But I read what was the other Star Trek guy? Takei? What is this?
Yeah.
George
George
Takei.
Takei. He did like a biography and stuff, and he talked about like William Shatner just being a straight up like homophobic prick to him on set like all the time.
Not
And
surprised.
Ouch. Yeah, that doesn't.
if I
surprise me.
grew up watching Star Trek, I might feel differently about it. But like going back and trying to watch it, I don't know if it'll have the same magical effect on me that everybody talks about. Maybe if
Right.
you like rebooted it and like
Chris
Well,
Pine it up.
they did.
They're doing it.
I'm not talking about J.J. Abrams. Like,
No. There's a new show with Captain Pike
is there?
coming out. It's called the
Strange New Worlds.
the Continuing Voyages.
Yeah,
It's going to
Voyages.
be strange. That's the one. Strange New Worlds. It's going to be an episodic original series era Star Trek with sort of the pre-Kirk cast.
I'm very
really exciting.
reluctant.
It's the Star Trek show I've always
I'm very
wanted.
reluctant, but if you guys make me watch it, to talk about it on like the podcast,
I will force you. I will tie you down.
I will
come to your
probably
house,
do it
tie you
then.
down,
But
and
I'm
force
very
you to watch it.
reluctant. Like I don't. I feel like
love
I'm
it.
committing heresy. Okay.
I mean, it's very sci-fi. It's more sci-fi than Star Wars because Star Wars is kind of like fantasy space opera type stuff. But I would strongly
It's also a
recommend
lot
the
smarter.
Yeah, it's smarter than Star Wars.
I'm a bona fide Star Wars
Mhm.
historian. I used to teach lore classes on a role playing guild. I used to be one of the teachers that used to teach like Star Wars lore within like the guild to other people so they can understand like the universe that we're role playing in.
Oh, nice.
So that's like
Creepy.
my experience with Star Wars. I was like, you want to think of like a Star Wars fan? Prior to 2012, like Star Wars was everything to me. Like the only comics I was reading was Star Wars. Like the only books I was reading was Star Wars. Like the only games I was playing is Star Wars. So like I always just hated Star Trek because if you're a Star Wars fan, you gotta hate Star Trek.
Why?
I like both.
Yeah.
I don't like either now. So I'm a little bit more open to watching like a new Star Trek something than I am like watching a new Star Wars. Like
I can dig
I
that.
kind of
Aaron, you're
agree
just
with
gonna have
that.
to come with us to the dark side.
I kind of actually agree with that a little bit because I wasn't terribly happy with the most recent film, The Rise of Skywalker.
what's your name?
Mandalorian exists.
Skywalker. What? That's not your name? It's not your name. Your name is not Skywalker, Ray. You can't just take somebody's name, Ray.
Well, you can. I mean, in the world where there's like an infinite possibility of things.
It just
that's
seems
the
like a dumb
silliest-
choice. It just seems like the dumbest choice. It
It's
really
not
does.
like they're going to track her on the World Network or anything. She doesn't have a social security number.
Like,
She's
why-
just Ray, and she wants her
Why
name
couldn't
to
she
be.
say Palpatine? Then everybody would be like,
I mean,
oh
it's
shit.
not as
Like,
dumb It's not as ridiculous as the Force being just.
I think we're
All
coming
right,
to
well,
an end.
Yeah, I think
Let's,
I was
um,
actually going to bring this up. I actually should be
Aw,
going.
come on.
Let's do a round. Let's have everybody give their last words. Let's
So
be fair.
yes, everybody on the show, maybe can plug something that they enjoyed. I wanted to say thank you for the guests to coming on the show. It's exciting to have new people.
Thank you for having us. It was a lot of fun.
This was delightful.
Yes, Ren and John, you two were absolutely amazing, and feel free to come back
Thank you.
anytime. Seriously.
I would love to. I really enjoy doing this. Thank you.
Can I talk about the
So
stuff that I make?
yes,
Yeah,
Plug
of course.
away.
Go for it.
plug your
So-
pluggables.
I do 3
Shamelessly.
podcasts. I do a Marvel podcast called Make Ours Marvel, where we started at Fantastic Four #1, and we're talking about all the superhero adventures. That comes out every Friday. I do a Image Comics podcast about the 90s comics. That comes out every month called All the Pouches, an Image Comics podcast.
God damn it.
And I do a Transformers podcast called Return to Cybertron. That comes out every Thursday. So,
Cool.
yeah, those are there.
All
You've
the
got to listen to
pouches.
those then.
Love that.
Well,
I love
listeners,
all the
listen to
pouches.
those.
Okay.
And
Okay, my Twitter handle is Ren_Chandler4. I generally just kind of post about my whatever show like right now. I'm watching a lot of House MD, and so I'm posting a lot about various random episodes of that. I post a lot about comics, comics that I'm reading. I also have been maintaining a movie review blog, as I mentioned earlier, Confessions of a Cluttered Mind. It's on Blogspot. I'm finishing up right now a retrospective of the Universal Monsters, and I'm going to start next week my annual horror movie reviews. I'm still trying to figure out what movies I'm going to cover this year, but usually I do one every Friday and every Saturday for the next few weekends.
Nice.
So look out for those, and Also, follow me on Twitter. Again, it's REN_CHANDLER4.
I have seen you a lot online. You and I have a lot of the same circles, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on, the two of you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
My name is Chrystal Williams. You can follow me at Chrystal W Rocks, ChrystalWrox. And I also have a Medium blog, which you can read all my articles on. And I'm sometimes a guest on the Violet Wanderers podcast. So check me out.
Awesome. I am Eva Webb. I am on this podcast. I'm on Twitter at Eva is Adorable. And I'm also on the Nerd Fix Strangers podcast. I'm usually on every other episode where they do these sort of pitch ideas. It's a ton of fun. You should check them out. How about you?
Okay,
Aaron?
my name is Erin, and you guys could follow me on Twitter if you want. I usually post just whatever. Like, Twitter's my main social media, so I just post everything on Twitter: comics, movies, shows, just everything that's on my mind. That's at Erin Sommer. That's ERINSIFER. I also Twitch stream. October's coming up, and I'm gonna be streaming various horror games throughout the month of October. That's pretty cool. My Twitch handle is right on my Twitter, so you should be able to find that pretty easily.
Nice. Well, thank you everybody for listening to another exciting episode of the Gals of Geekdom podcast.
And that's our show. Don't forget to come back next week where we talk about the punk rock world of underground and independent comics from scratch with our guest, Black Fly Press. Today's bumper music has been graciously provided by Vans in Japan. See you next week.